Welcome to EPG program. This is Dr. C.C. Prasad, Assistant Director, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Open University. We are living in information era. Information plays key role in governance. To meet the preferences, demands, expectations of people, government needs information to make relevant public policies to resolve public problems and issues. What is information? Information is nothing but a processed data. It is an aid to policymakers. The quality of public policy analysis depends on quality inputs, that is information. Policy analysts are both generalists and specialists. They start policy analysis as generalists and emerge as specialists after analysis is over on particular public problem or issue. Public analysts collect data by adopting different techniques such as survey, simulation, etc. The present module highlights different types of policy analysis and also important data collection techniques in policy analysis. Policy analysis, though emerged as an American disciplinary field, it has subsequently developed in a wide range of other countries around the globe and is intended to bring greater expertise into public endeavors. The acquisition and dissemination of information about the public policies have become a major theme in social sciences, especially in the discipline of public administration. In policy analysis, such knowledge is used for making, managing, and evaluating a public policy. It is a procedure to measure organizational effectiveness through the examination and evaluation of the effectiveness of a program. It is estimating the impact of public policy on the government programs. Understanding policy analysis. Policy analysis helps in understanding the policy making process and supplies policy decision makers with reliable policy relevant knowledge about economic and social problems. Dunn defines policy analysis as an applied social science discipline which uses multiple methods of inquiry and arguments to produce and transform policy relevant information that may be utilized in political settings to resolve policy problems. The Dictionary of Public Administration defines policy analysis as a systematic and data-based alternative to intuitive judgments about the effects of policy or policy options. It is used for problem assessment and monitoring, as a before-the-fact decision tool, and for evaluation. Thomas Dye labels policy analysis as the thinking man's response to demands. Policy analysis has come to be recognized as an important technique in assessing policy problems as well as policy impacts. It makes use of the required information in examining, deciding about, and finally measuring the consequences of public policies. It provides maximum information with minimal cost about the likely consequences of proposed policies and the actual consequences of the policies already adopted. Policy informational components. Policy analysis is a multidisciplinary inquiry designed to critically assess and communicate information that is useful in understanding and improving policies. It addresses 5 types of questions. What is the nature of the problem for which a solution is sought? Which of 2 or more courses of action should be chosen to solve the problem? What are the outcomes of choosing that course of action? Does achieving the outcomes contribute to solving? What future outcomes can be expected if other courses of action are chosen? The answers to these questions yield 5 types of policy informational components: policy problem, expected policy outcome, preferred policy, observed policy, outcome, and policy performance. A policy problem is an unrealized value or opportunity for improvement through public action. The information about a problem, antecedent condition provides knowledge of the problem to be solved. An expected policy outcome is a probable consequence of a policy designed to solve a problem. Information about the circumstances that gave rise to a problem essential for producing information about expected policy outcomes. A preferred policy is a potential solution to a problem. To select a preferred policy, it is necessary to have information about expected policy outcomes. An observed policy outcome is a past or present consequence of implementing a preferred policy. The consequences of an action cannot be fully stated in advance or known in advance, and many consequences are unanticipated. In dealing with such questions, information about the consequences of action is produced ex ante as well as ex post. Policy performance is the degree to which an observed policy outcome contributes to the attainment of values, goals, or objectives. Policy problems are seldom solved. They are most often resolved, reformulated, or even unsolved. The 5 types of information are produced and transformed by using methods of policy analysis. These methods include description, prediction, appraisal, prescription, and definition. All methods involve judgments of different kinds: judgments to accept or reject an explanation, to affirm or dispute the rightness of an action, to select or not to select a policy, to accept or reject a prediction, to define a problem in one way rather than other. In policy analysis, these procedures have been given special names: monitoring, forecasting, evaluation, recommendation, and problem structuring. Monitoring produces information about observed outcomes of policies. Forecasting produces information about the expected outcomes of policies. Evaluation produces information about the value or worth of observed and expected outcomes. Recommendation produces information about preferred policies. Problem structuring produces information about what problem to solve. Types of policy analysis: empirical, evaluative, or normative policy analysis. Policy analysis is a comprehensive process. It involves understanding of the action initiated for a problem in the past, the extent to which the objectives of a policy were met, and the strategy needed for future. The empirical policy analysis is based on interpretation of the past policies. It is concerned with analyzing the causes and effects of given public policies. It implies analyzing the government expenditure, for example, on agriculture over a period of time. This may help in comprehending any observable trend or pattern of government expenditure in a specific sector, area, or scheme. The evaluative approach to policy analysis focuses on program evaluation. It determines the significance or value of a policy option. It may focus on a particular objective and decide whether a given target of the policy was met or not. The normative policy analysis concerns with recommending future courses of action for a given problem. It advocates or suggests an action. For example, a government may have a policy of preventing pollutants from discharging waste of nearby habitations in the river. As a part of this policy, the government may recommend to the local authorities concerned to take necessary steps to prevent the pollutants reaching the river. Retrospective, prospective policy analysis. Retrospective policy analysis is done to confirm the major aspects of policy research available on the problem under consideration. For example, a study of a government department which has outsourced some of its services would be a retrospective study. The retrospective policy analysis is also sometimes termed as ex post or post hoc policy analysis. It involves the production and transformation of information after policies have been implemented and is directly useful for future decision making. Prospective policy analysis focuses on the future outcomes of a proposed policy. In case The decision maker has 4 policy options. The policy analyst attempts to predict the future status of results from alternative policy options available to them. The prospective policy analysis is also sometimes termed as ex ante, pre hoc, or anticipatory policy analysis. There could be a possibility of gap between the preferred solutions to the problem and the efforts made by the institutions concerned to resolve them. Predictive, prescriptive, descriptive policy analysis. Predictive policy analysis is forecasting future conditions resulting from the implementation of particular policy alternatives. The prescriptive analysis recommends actions that result in a particular outcome. Prescriptive policy analysis could be adopted when the policy analysts are not sure about the nature of solution to a problem or there is no programmed way of selecting a particular solution among alternatives. The policymaker's attitude, preferences, and beliefs may influence the selection of an option among alternatives. For example, one might conduct a study to see the impact of changing income tax rates on the saving habits of people who are paying income tax. If the study recommends that lowering income tax rates that will result in higher savings, this is a prescriptive policy analysis since lowering tax rates may or may not improve the saving habits of people on the lines expected. Descriptive policy analysis is conducted after policy implementation. The primary concern is to understand the problem rather than to solve it. It also concerns with evaluation of a new policy as it is implemented. Descriptive analysis is incorporated into prospective policy analysis. The implemented policies are monitored and evaluated to decide on whether to continue or modify the earlier policy. The information generated in this context will also help in solving future problems. The recommendation based on the prediction or prescription comes into effect before it has been adopted. The descriptive or evaluative policy analysis are applied after the recommendation has been adopted. Therefore, prescriptive or predictive analysis deals with future course of action, while descriptive and evaluative analysis are concerned with past actions. Methods and techniques of policy analysis. The methods and techniques such as cost-benefit analysis and cost-effectiveness analysis, input-output analysis, survey methods, computer simulation, and optimization techniques such as linear programming, marginal analysis, etc., play an important role in policy analysis. Cost-benefit analysis and cost-effectiveness analysis. The cost-benefit analysis and cost-effectiveness analysis are the methods used in economic evaluation of policy analysis. These methods permit policy analysts to compare and advocate policies by quantifying their total monetary costs and benefits. Cost-benefit analysis and cost-effectiveness analysis can be used prospectively to recommend policy actions and also retrospectively to evaluate policy performance. In cost-benefit analysis, the benefits of social policy should outweigh the costs. Policy analysts look at a number of different program outcomes and evaluate them in terms of costs and benefits. In cost-effective analysis, policy analysts examine the cost of various policy options and their potential impacts. The lowest cost program that has the highest impact is the one chosen for implementation. The problem with these approaches is that costs are expressed in monetary terms. Some social costs and benefits cannot be converted into money. For example, quality of life, mental health, or the beauty of a national park cannot be assigned money value. The method may not take into account unexpected costs or side effects of the program, and it may be difficult to estimate costs and benefits over time. In addition, the methods do not really help to identify how benefits should be distributed across different demographic or income groups. Distributional decisions are usually made in the political process. The cost-benefit analysis tries to estimate net social welfare changes as a result of policy. In this analysis, social welfare is measured in terms of net benefits of the policy. A policy is said to be efficient if it maximizes the net benefits available to the society. Although the cost-benefit analysis is not specifically designed to evaluate the equity, it can be used to track down the costs and benefits among various strata of beneficiaries. The policy analyst may attempt to determine how benefits are distributed among different beneficiaries stratified on the basis of age, sex, income, religion, geographic location, etc. Intersectoral input-output analysis. Input-output, a technique invented by Professor Wesley W. Leontief in 1951. Input-output, a technique invented by Professor Wesley W. Leontief in 1951, used to analyze inter-industry relationship in order to understand the interdependencies and complexities of the economy and thus the conditions for maintaining equilibrium between supply and demand. Thus, it is a technique to explain the general equilibrium of the economy. It is also known as inter-industry analysis. According to Professor J.R. Hicks, an input is something which is bought for the enterprise, while an output is something which is sold by it. An input is obtained but an output is produced. Thus, input represents the expenditure of the firm and output its receipts. The sum of the money values of inputs is the total cost of a firm, and the sum of the money values of the output is its total revenue. The input-output analysis explains industrial interrelationships and interdependencies in the economic system as a whole. The inputs of one industry are the outputs of another industry and vice versa, so that ultimately their mutual relationship lead to equilibrium between supply and demand in the economy as a whole. Coal is an input for steel industry and steel is an input for coal industry, though both are the outputs of their respective industries. A major part of economic activity consists in producing intermediate goods for further use of producing final goods. There are flows of goods in whirlpools and cross currents between the different industries. The supply side consists of large inter-industry flows of intermediate products and the demand side of the final goods. In essence, the input-output analysis implies that in equilibrium, the money value of aggregate output of the whole economy must equal the sum of the money values of inter-industry inputs and the sum of the money values of inter-industry outputs. The input-output analysis method is widely used as a tool in policy evaluation. The interdependence among various sectors of the economy is explained and predicted through this method. Input-output analysis has been applied to a variety of forecasting problems like implications of alternative taxation programs for industrial growth, effects of industrial growth on the demand for water resources, effects of industrial growth on the consumption of energy resources, etc. The most important applications of input-output analysis is the formation of a national income accounting matrix. The information from the input-output tables is used for economic planning. In practice, the number of sectors included in the basic input-output table can vary from a few to hundreds or even thousands depending on the desired level of disaggregation and the problem at hand. The data collection and compilation for input-output tables is an expensive and time-consuming process involving large computational requirements. The United Nations recommends input-output analysis as a planning tool for developing countries and has sponsored a standardized system of economic accounts for the development of input-output models. This method provides information about inputs and outputs actually employed in the production consumption processes of the economy, the distribution of each industry's output in the economy, and the origin of each industry's inputs. For understanding a three-sector economy is taken in which there are two inter-industry sectors, agriculture and industry, and one final demand sector. Table 1 provides a simplified picture of such economy in which the total output of the industrial, agricultural and household sectors is set in rows and has been divided into the agricultural, industrial and final demand sectors. The inputs of these sectors are set in columns. The first row total shows that altogether the agriculture output is valued at rupees 300 crores per year. Of this total, 100 crores go directly to final consumption, that is household and government, as shown in the third column of the first row. The remaining output from agriculture goes as inputs 50 to itself and 150 to industry. Similarly, the second row shows the distribution of total output of the industrial sector valued at rupees 500 crores per year. Columns 1, 2 and 3 shows that 100 units of manufactured goods go as inputs to agriculture, 250 to industry itself and 150 for final consumption to the household sector. The first column downwards describes the input or cost structure of the agriculture industry. Agriculture output valued at rupees 300 crores is produced with the use of agriculture goods worth 50, manufactured goods worth 100 and labor and management services valued at rupees 150. To put it differently, it costs rupees 300 crores to get revenue of 300 crores from the agriculture sector. Similarly, the second column explains the input structure of the industrial sector. Thus, a column gives 1 point on the production function of the corresponding industry. The final demand column shows what is available for consumption and government expenditure. The third row corresponding to this column has been shown as 0. This means that the household sector is simply a spending sector that does not sell anything to itself. Survey research. Survey research is one of the most common types of social research for collecting quantitative data. It is a method of collecting data from a sample of respondents that is representative of a target population. It may not be possible practically to elicit the required information from the whole population. In such cases, a sample that represents the target population is used. A sample is a fraction of population selected to elicit the information about the population as a whole. For example, a sample of prospective voters is questioned in advance to determine the public opinion on the candidates or parties contesting the election. Similarly, the government may seek the opinion of people through a sample survey for evaluating the present or proposed legislation. The survey is intended to represent characteristics or perceptions of a target population. It consists of all objects, individuals, or social units. For example, to know the environmental effects of an industry in a particular location, the target population may consist of all the individuals living in and around that industrial area. Similarly, to know the people's opinion on construction of irrigation project, the target population may consist of the potential beneficiaries of the proposed project and those who are likely to lose land or get displaced. Therefore, the target population must be clearly defined. Survey could be cross-sectional and longitudinal. In-person interviews, telephone surveys, mail survey, and internet survey are 4 methods of conducting survey for collecting data. The policy analyst researcher can choose any of the method convenient for collecting information depending on the time, cost and resources, the feasibility of using a method and nature of the population. A questionnaire can be used to get information from any of the methods. Each question or set of questions should be designed and worded carefully to get the relevant information. Mailed surveys and internet surveys should have a brief attachment introducing the survey and requesting the cooperation of the respondent in filling the questionnaire. The questionnaire could be closed-ended or open-ended. A closed-ended questionnaire limits the respondent's answer to the survey but is easy for analysis. An open-ended questionnaire can have more information but may not be amenable to incisive analysis. Simulation. Simulation is a method of solving problems in decision making by developing a mathematical model of a process and then conducting a series of experiments to predict the behavior of that process. It is used to describe a procedure of establishing a model or deriving solution numerically. Mathematical model can be used either for the purpose of optimization or description. Using optimization models, points of maximization or minimization can be sought. For example, a policy analyst often would like to know the type of actions that would result in profit, revenue maximization or cost minimization. A description model describes the behavior of a system. It only indicates a valid representation of reality and does not directly suggest optimizing conditions. This facilitates the understanding of conditions under which a system performs more efficiently. In simulation, a model for optimizing purposes is used by raising what-if questions. For example, a policy analyst would like to know the effect on the benefits if the cost of a project increases by 5% or 10% or 15% and so on. Using simulation, useful information for optimization of the project can be obtained. Simulations are used to analyze large and complex real-world situations that cannot be solved by conventional models. Simulation by itself may not provide the answer to the problem. It is a technique for evaluating possible answers. After having discussion on types of policy analysis and methods and techniques adopted in policy analysis, we can conclude that policy analysis is an important technique in assessing policy problems as well as policy impacts. It provides maximum information with minimal cost to the policy analyst. There are different types of policy analysis: empirical, evaluative or normative, retrospective, prospective, predictive, prescriptive, etc. Prescriptive or predictive policy analysis deals with future course of action, while descriptive and evaluative policy analysis are concerned with past actions. Policy analysis adopts different techniques to obtain information and to assess the impact of public policies. Survey, research, simulation are important methods for data collection and assessment, but both have some limitations. The choice of particular method should be justified by its advantages and disadvantages in the context of the purpose. Policy analysis adopts some of the techniques in their analysis, such as cost-benefit analysis and cost-effectiveness analysis, intersectoral input-output analysis to forecasting variety of problems. They adopt quantitative techniques in their analysis to obtain relevant information and to compare alternatives. The techniques are aids to policy analysts for evaluating policies and their impact objectively.